All right. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Be Healed Web Show. I am your host, Camille R. Perry, and I'm so happy that you are with us on tonight. I am even more ecstatic about my guest. You know, you already see me in my blue and white, so you kind of know where I'm going with this. But let me introduce you before I bring him into the stage. I have with us our Western regional director for Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity and Incorporated, my constitutionally bound brothers, okay? The fine men, those blue five men in blue and white, okay? And so let me tell you a little bit about Kedric. Just I'm gonna give a little simple portion of, I'm not gonna give you everything, but we're gonna sprinkle it through as we go on. And so he's a 34th regional director for Phi Beta Sigma, and not only has he been instrumental in the journey of other Sigma men and just men alike. He often serves his community, not just because of him being a Sigma man, but because he's a good man. Okay. So let's talk about him being a good man. He was elected during the COVID pandemic. Okay, so he came in. So when we're talking about leading from a pandemic or how he has been able to lead in this place, he can talk to that at nauseum. I'm excited to hear from him. Okay, so on April 25th, 1999, he became a Sigma man. And since he became a Sigma man, he has been able to hold regional offices, local offices, state offices. I'm waiting for him just to go and be national. Okay, like I just come on. I already called it. But most importantly, he serves as a father. His first ministry is being a father, being that brother, that son. And being an active leader in his community. He also serves in the Department of Corrections, the CDCR, as a psych tech for the past 12 years. So he comes with a wealth of understanding and knowledge. And so I just want y'all to put in some chats, throw up some hearts, wherever you might be. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's a little plug there. And welcome, Mr. Kedric D. Nalls. Hey, bro, how you doing?
Doing good, sis. How you doing, baby?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm so happy you came and hang out with us here in Be Healed Web Show as we're talking about leading the pandemic. Now, listen, I didn't go all into depth, but we can have you speak right directly to it. Not only are you leading the pandemic, but let's just talk about your day job for a moment before we start talking about what you do as your passion. So your first passion, outside of your children being a family man, I would take it is mental health.
Yes.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit how you've been able to hold down everything that goes on in your life, as well as how you serve in your 9 to 5 or 12-hour shift time frame, how you're able to serve in that way and provide mental health assistance to others in need?
Well, it's important to make sure, I always say this in the beginning, that it's hard to give mental health services if you're not well going in. One of the things we always say is make sure you leave whatever your personal issues at the gate when you're coming in, because going into corrections, it's a whole different animal, it's a whole different world. So you want to make sure you come in right, you leave whatever problems, issues, stressors that you got going on and working and be able to provide that work, because it is a very taxing job and it's not a very rewarding job. But you have to keep that mindset that at one point something's going to sink through. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but at one point, and unfortunately, you see we'll go into the corrections a little bit and a recidivism rate. You see the guys come back, and they remember me from other institutions I worked at. So it's good to see them back, but you definitely got to make sure you're right first before you start giving care.
I mean, okay, let's just jump right there for a moment. So dealing with the recidivism of that revolving door into, once in corrections, out, and then coming right back in, how do you welcome them back, even though it's good to see them in the sense of they're alive, but it's not really good that they're there?
Correct.
So how do you handle that?
So I used to do groups, and now I'm the supervisor now. So they still remember me, especially the ones that come back and knew me at my previous institution that I run group therapy, and we connected a lot. We played around, we joked, and had some good times. We also had some good, meaningful communications and conversations as well. I welcome them back as, hey, this is the first time, I've seen them in a while, and not say buddy because you don't want to have that type of communication with them, but somebody real and not necessarily always coming at a more of a clinical approach. Right. I kind of leave that to the psychologist and the psychiatrist. Give me 1 second.
No worries.
Sorry, you got to be a daddy too. That's a job that don't stop.
I saw the whole face change. I was like, okay. Like, I got quiet. I was like.
Yeah, one thing working and talk about my dad and mom. They worked working with people for all their life, and it was just bred in me that I was going to be doing the same thing. So it kind of comes naturally, being able to hold a room and hold the conversations, dealing with people of all kind of walks of life, who've had the roughest and upbringings, all the way to people who had silver spoons in their mouth. You catch them at where they are. My mind says that, hey, they've already been convicted, they've already been sentenced, so there's no reason for me to look down upon them, because they've already, whatever their crime may be, they've already been convicted of. My job is to give care and try to rehabilitate and try to bring some normalcy to a place that really is not normal.
That's huge. I've done some work with reentry when they come out, and the first 30 to 45 days, especially when we were doing drug treatment, getting them to realize that they were free, that they didn't have greeting them by their first and last name or not a CDCR number, talking to them and allowing them, like, they can go to the fridge whenever they wanted to. It wasn't like a certain time, it was, and I can understand that. And when you talk about being well yourself, hurt people. And so if you're not well, you're going to hurt those that are in need of help. So I agree with that. And your mom is watching. She says she's very proud of you. So hi, Mother Nalls.
Hey, Mama.
So as you mentioned, your family has always been in that way of support and giving. Let's kind of we're going to mesh both worlds. So what made you pick Phi Beta Sigma fraternity to be where you would serve? And did you even see yourself being where you are now?
Not even close. Not even close. And it's funny, I was having a conversation with a member of Mega Psi Phi's Fraternity Incorporated the other day, and we were talking about our journeys, and I talk about in general, whether it be fraternities and sororities, our journey to where our respective organizations led us could have been easily turned one way or another, no matter how much we want not to admit it. We could have been this or could have been that, with a different conversation, a different school, a different mentor, and I easily could have been wearing a different color. But at the end of the day, we wanted to serve our communities, regardless of what we want to do in terms of serving, why we came into the fraternity and our sorority life and Greek life in general. Everybody came in their own path, whether they wanted somebody to kind of hang out with, or they saw an organization that was bigger than them. Or in my case, I had two of my best friends decide to pledge Sigma, and they asked me, well, what am I doing for the next 2 months? Because I literally kicked it with them every single day. We ate together, we did together, and I looked around and I was like, well, what else am I going to do? And that's my story. It's not the best story in the world. It's not the most inspirational story in the world. But what that decision has led me to be where I am today is amazing. My line brothers laugh at me all the time. Like, I can't believe you're anything in Sigma, because I definitely was not the path almost 21 years ago.
You're like, I was hungry, and my friends, they fed me. So I was like, okay, Sigma.
Simple as that. And it's one thing about Sigma, no matter all the stories I've heard where it's Greek or not, one thing Sigma's always going to do, they're going to make sure they're going to feed you. And, when you're in school and you're hungry, that's an attractive part right there. And there's been a lot of nights I was hungry in school, so they made sure I was fed. So I'm hoping the work I've done and continue to do is definitely giving back. So I always appreciate the brothers.
Absolutely. The reason why I brought that up, because when you mentioned about serving in the capacity that you do in the CDCR, understanding that, the late, great brother John Lewis, he served in his capacity for those that are disenfranchised and less fortunate, those that are living the margin. So do you feel that you carry that with you as a momentum, or do you feel that the principles of Sigma just resonate with the principles of your life?
In general speaking, yes. There's some things, and obviously our principles: brotherhood, scholarship, and service. If you're trying to make that correlation in the prison, if anyone that works in corrections or have family that's behind bars, that's serving any type of sentence, prison is very segregated, and it's done on purpose. Like I said, it's a whole different world, and a lot of people who don't know, maybe seen some things on TV, and there's a couple of episodes of TV that's actually kind of what is actually the sexy part of it. People love talking about prison shows or whatnot. But it's very, very segregated. You got the blacks, you got the whites, you got the different Hispanic gangs, and then literally you have what is called the other, and that's what they referred as. So regardless of how you feel about it, that's how they survived, and that's how they've been surviving for decades under that mindset. So they're the most, they whatever crime they committed, how gruesome or hard light, whatever you want to call, they're the most intelligent people that you can ever be around, most resourceful for the lack of resources they have. We talk about it all the time, the things they think about, the things they create, both positive and negative. When we look at some of the weapons they create, we also look at the artwork that they create. We got a lot of people who write poetry. They do public speaking. There's a lot of different resources and a lot of educated people in prison, and people don't always see that and respect that. So understand that they have the brotherhood, the scholarship, and a lot of people that want to serve. They protect their own. They want to make sure that they're protecting their rights are being heard and their voices being heard. No matter what crime they have, everyone has a voice and have rights. And especially in California, my partners in Green and the Free staff can definitely tell you that's one thing they always harp on is about their rights. So if they know their rights and they know what your job is better than you do sometimes. So definitely important. So you definitely got to have your mind checked when you come in.
That's huge. And so, okay, like I'm one of those people who watch the prison shows.
Okay.
I watch that. And so when you're talking about as we're relating to the pandemic as well, when the pandemic hit, what was the tone in the prisons? Because I do remember in California, there was like a release. There was maybe about 3,000 inmates that were released during that pandemic timeframe, the early portions of it. But what was like the mode or the mood in the prisons during that time?
I can speak of my prison. Right,
your location.
Right, of course. Because the different outbreaks had different times. The first outbreak that came in San Quentin. Our prison, my prison I work at, had an outbreak in roughly between October and January. So every prison kind of dealt with its own, because it was all brand new. Where I work in the mental health side, so I work in acute crisis care. A lot of the patients didn't want to come out of their rooms. And I told everybody, I said, everybody was so scared of the patients giving them COVID. And I said, no, we're the ones that are going to end up giving COVID to them, because we're the ones coming in and out. They live there. They ain't going anywhere. It's us bringing it in. So it was very, a lot of understanding, a lot of rules, a lot of different policies changed over with time. Even to today, we're still discussing the COVID-19 policy at work, and how it's evolved from October of 2020 to now April 2021. Things are a little bit more relaxed and streamlined, but there's still a lot of questions about different times and dates, and just make sure that the facility itself and all the facilities are doing the best job they can to prevent any spread of COVID. We get checked every day coming in. We take a temperature check. Every week we're required to get our COVID testing. And CDCR definitely did a good job of making sure that people understood you need to get your test done or you will be face some discipline action. So they had to be very serious. And a lot of people still didn't take it serious, but unfortunately people understand paper than talk sometimes. So once the paper started getting written, then people started taking that test and weekly. So it's definitely important, definitely important. And I took it as a mindset that, you know what, I'm getting free testing, where people around, when the beginning was hard to find a test. The appointments were backlogged. I actually felt very fortunate to be able to get tests for free and with little to no wait time and don't have to pay for it, whatever the case may be. I think it was important to kind of make sure I took advantage of that. So
that's good. Well, first of all, to God be the glory that you you didn't contract or, have issues.
Actually, I did.
You did?
I had COVID. I had
COVID.
End of October, and finished my quarantine. Luckily, fortunate for me, it was for like a light flu. Took some Theraflu. Quarantine was the hardest part. Not being around the kids, and for me that was the hardest part for me. But I came out good, unscathed. No bouts of no lasting effects for me. So definitely fortunate, and prayed every day, and people prayed up on me. So yes, I was a victim of COVID, but now vaccinated and ready to go. So.
Well, look at God, because I'm saying like, well, they didn't put that in the newsletter at all. They didn't put that on the prayer list for us. They were praying. But okay, so thank God that you survived it, because so many, in our blue and white family did not have that same testimony.
Yes.
So I'm very grateful that you've been preserved in that way. And so with all of that, dealing with pandemic, dealing with the virus yourself, still trying to maintain and focus, but you also have to lead. How many are in your region?
End of 2020, we hit our 1,000. We actually hit 1,019. Financial members. Okay. So definitely that number is the first time we ever hit that number. So definitely proud of the brothers in the Western region stepping up and pushing that number. So definitely shout out to our first vice regional director, Brother Sidney Jackson Jr., being first vice and making that push. So definitely want to give him a shout out on that. So
yeah, that's right. All right, shout out, Brother Sidney. All right, we'll clap you up. Because he just be strolling and stepping. I'm like, your knees is gonna hurt. Hey. You're not as young as you used to be.
He just celebrated his 50th, but he has an energy of a 20-year-old, so it's definitely.
He really does. Because I'm sitting like, you not tired? Because I'm exhausted. Okay, just
if he's tired, he shows it in the room. You don't try to show it in front of the brothers. You got the pride factor going. So.
Well, thank you, Sidney, for all the work. So 1,000+ individuals that you are men that you're leading. So under your leadership, your headship, what have you done? All of your accomplishments that you had to that you can brag about. We'll talk about the accomplishments first, and then we'll address some of the opportunities that came up during this season. So go ahead and brag on yourself, all of your accomplishments that you were able to do during this time.
Well, that'll be hard to brag on a little bit. Let me think. I'll go backwards. We've done countless donations and fundraisers to support our military veterans. That's a big push under my administration. I want to make sure I support the military brothers, both in the mainland and abroad. The veterans, we just did a blanket drive, and we'll be passing out some blankets in the San Diego area here very soon, in the next month or two. So I'm definitely excited about that. We supported our collegiate brothers, obviously with all the collegiates, and no matter what fraternity sorority in, definitely on shutdown due to the pandemic, and the universities and colleges not permitting any normal fundraisers, whether it be parties or bake sales or whatever the case may be. All that was shut down. So we supported our collegiate chapters with some fees for this coming year, or this current year. We had we tied our record. We had the most registered members of virtual members for our 2021 leadership conference. We just finished up. We had 197 brothers registered for that. We've never had that many ever for a leadership conference. So that was very interesting. And the virtual piece is something that, in talking to other regions, the 6 other regions, and talking about, the barrier for me and for any past and future Western Regional Director, how to deal with the largest space, largest landmass, and still effectively communicate leadership and provide leadership to chapters all across the Western United States, and plus 5 chapters abroad that's under the Western region. So definitely been doing a good job mixing and utilizing Zoom. That's been important, and putting resources and money behind that, and making sure that we're not being cheap, because men sometimes be cheap sometimes. So put some money into it and make sure that we have a good quality product pushing out. And I can't, probably the most important thing of anything that off the top of my brain right now is my team. The team that surrounds me, the elected board, my 2 chiefs of staff. It's important to surround yourself, and no matter if it's a COVID pandemic, any leadership that try to do it all by themselves is going to be a detrimental to themselves and to the organization. And I say that directly to all the leaders now and the future leaders. Don't do it. We got too many talented people that want to do the work of Sigma. And it's good to kind of lean on them, and you got to know when to lean and when to back off, because you're the one that's a leader. So that's the important part of any type of leadership, is you got to know when to lean on them and push a little bit more than what they say they can do, but know when to back off when they ask you to break. So that's important too.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Because I'm like, I attended your comedy night I was trying to, so let me just go ahead and brag for you, since you're still being modest. I'm like, okay, so you not only had a virtual regional conference, but you made sure to have a comedy night. Not only did you have a full-fledged comedy night, like it was well attended. You had, I believe you've done some things with not only with social action, as you mentioned, but you've also have helped your sisters. Okay, you yet support and serve your sisters even before the pandemic hit. The last time we were all together in January 2020, you made sure you weren't in that capacity as regional director just yet, but you served. You made sure, like, y'all fed us well. Okay. You gave us that pre-COVID weight before COVID weight. Okay.
Yeah, you can blame me that what they call the COVID 20.
Yeah.
You can blame me Nalls.
We're not gonna put a number on it. Like, just COVID. God dog it is COVID. But I mean, you have served, and then I actually have brother Felix Moore. I was going to give him no government name, but I have Brother Felix on here, and he was talking how, he was talking his journey. And he mentioned a little bit about how his process in becoming a Sigma, but, just all that he's done. And I know he serves on your board,
Yes.
and so, you Sigma men are doing well, exceedingly well during this pandemic. You all have made it known, and I know you're getting ready to help us as we're preparing for our virtual conference. So there's your impact is being felt. I do have a question regarding it's tying back into mental health, though, in respects to how you mentioned about knowing when to lean in and when to back off. Have you had to deal with and have those mental health conversations with your board or with maybe frat members to help ensure that their mental health during this time is preserved?
It's important to understand, where every brother is, and having those conversations. Obviously with the board, I try not to hold a lot of meetings. I'm not a big meeting person, but I will meet when need be. But going back to the brotherhood part and having those conversations, especially since we can't meet physically, but we've relaxed on some of our rules and regulations for Phi Beta Sigma. But for the most part, having conferences or whatnot, our first meeting that we'll be able to have here in the Western region will be at our international conclave coming up here in August. So for a lot of us, it'll be the first time I've seen brothers physically since 2019. So we want to make sure that where brothers are, we've had some brothers that had COVID as well, making sure that, we're doing check-ins. Sometimes we forget and we do emails and we do social media, but, old school picking up the phone. We may not be able to go to the brother's house because of whatever the restrictions may be or their personal beliefs on COVID and want to make sure everybody stays away. But nothing stops a phone call. At this point, phone calls are free. It's not back in the day when it was 10 cents a minute back in the day or whatnot. So And we wait until 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, for the free
Right.
minute.
When it was free.
When it was free, you're like, oh, what you calling me 6:55 for? You know better than that. But just having the conversations and just pick up the phone to say hello. I was talking to our past Western Regional Director, Brother Armstrong, and I said, what's up? And I knew it was something business. My mind was in business. He said, no, brother, I was just calling to say hello. And all of a sudden, I was like, okay, all right. I got to click the mind off and be like, okay, all right. Hey, brother, how you doing? He said, yeah, you don't get a lot of these phone calls. He said, I know, I've been there. So the support from the past regional directors have been, is what we call it, the hot seat, is definitely important. And, and that's one of the things I would say that I need to do better is reach back and reach out to them, get some more, tutelage. And, just because you're at the regional director seat doesn't mean you know everything. But one thing I do pride for is say I might not know the answer, but I know how to get the answer and who to get it from. So I've been around to know most of the answers, but I don't know all of them. So
absolutely. Okay, look at you just answering all the questions properly. All right. So you got conclave. I'm like, we're going to talk about that. You're going to send it because we're going to post that so we can support, make sure everybody is vaccinated and feeling free. But one of the things that I thought was interesting is that you're installed during the pandemic and you're leading through the pandemic and you're going to be able to meet back with your individuals. What do you see your organization doing in future? Like when you look at 2021 to 2022 fraternity year, what are some things that you're looking to accomplish? Like let's go ahead and pretend like we're already at conclave and you're getting ready to do your address. What do you want to hit them with?
Well, I would just for a correction, because I know the brothers be like that. Brother Nalls ain't doing no speaking at conclave. So at conclave, I don't speak. Yeah, that's
not
no, not too much. Not too much. There may be some stuff on the background and whatnot. The reports and stuff. I'm not a committee chairman, so actually, be help directing the region during elections. As you may aware, we'll be electing a new international president on this cycle. And a new board. So definitely, just being honest, there's politics in every level. So there's a lot of politics and, dealing with the candidates and making sure that the board, the brothers from the Western region make a good conscious decisions on how we're going to vote all the way down from international president all the way down to the whole candidacy list. So that's probably most of the work that'll be going on, making sure the brothers' room, that type of stuff, make sure take care of the brothers as we're traveling in a pandemic and make sure they know how to get there and know to get, where they're supposed to be, caucuses and that type of thing. So that's most of the work that I'll be doing at conclave.
Oh, I'm going to say, no, we're going to fix that. I'm going to make a call. I'm going to call somebody. You're going to answer.
No call needed. No call needed.
But even in still, like how, I know you mentioned about making sure, but where do you want to see your organization? And I would imagine I was just going to say, like, why wouldn't you just still be in the position the next year coming? I'm just throwing it out there.
Right. Well, the term is 2 years.
Okay, so you're going to be here. Good. So tell us what can we see from you and your organization 2021, 22?
So I will speak in the Western region, but I will also touch on the fraternity as a whole. I'm getting ready to start planning the 2022 Western Regional Conference, which will be held in San Diego. I'm very excited. Yes. I mean, good food, beach, you can't beat it. But also one of the terms, I got 2 terms I use: Brothers of the West supporting Brothers of the West. I think that's important, especially we're the smallest membership in the fraternity because we're so far out from everybody else on the East Coast, Southern states and whatnot, so Southwest. So I want to make sure we take care of our own and stop worrying, having to wait for someone else to take care of us. I'm huge on that. I'd rather just deal with the problem ourselves because a lot of talented brothers here in the Western region. So I'm pretty sure most problems we can figure it out. But also meeting where the brothers are. It's important to know, what the brother's telling you, no matter what your vision and what you think you want. At the end of the day, the brother's going to drive and either get on board or not get on board. So it's your job to, hey, show them the vision, show them exactly where you want them to go, and then help lead them. But if they don't want to go there, then as a leader, you have to turn the wheel a little bit and meet them where they are. So there's a little kind of tug and forth, like you want to take them there, but not to be ready to go as far as you want them to go. So listening and saying all that, looking at a hybrid regional conference is something that I was not prepared to do because we have such an expansive region. And obviously, anyone who's done any conference planning, you got to know how many people are coming. So that's going to dictate exactly how much everything's going to cost. But going into a hybrid function would make a lot of easy for a lot of brothers to attend. But it may be some issues that we have to see how we're going to handle the hotel situation and meeting those obligations. So that would be probably my biggest task, is having that hybrid. Virtually is a lot easier. Everything's on computer, so everything's on Zoom. Fortunately for me, I don't have to do Zoom all the time. So it wasn't such a task, but for brothers that do Zoom every day and then ask them to spend conference time Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday on a conference was taxing, but the brother stepped up. So I'm definitely kind of seeing how we're going to make that transition into a hybrid function, because I know brothers want to get together. I believe by the time frame I'm looking to have the conference, it should be safer, but brothers, at the end of the day, their families are going to decide if they're going to go or not and support. So I got to keep that in mind. So.
Yeah, we had a little technical glitch, but got through that. I think that's something that you mentioned that I think all of us need to realize, that hold leadership roles, that you can only extend so much and then meet people where they are. But as well as when you're saying about regathering or coming into place, not putting that pressure on them. I think about that even like with church. I talked with a pastor, my dad, last week, and I have another conversation with a pastor to see how they're leading the pandemic, because you have members who aren't necessarily going to feel safe with going back into a collective body and meeting face to face, and yes, COVID restrictions for California are supposed to be completely lifted by June 15th with just, with only recommendation of wearing the mask, but still being mindful of that. I think that's huge. While others might say, no, we're back, just come on back, but not leaving anyone behind. I think that's very admirable and necessary. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing with my church. We've done a good job of meeting where the members are. We have 2 services that are live. Each pew is segregated is not the word, but separated every pew. So you could use every pew, every other pew to sit down, and then we also have a live version as well. So you gotta, if you're not thinking and utilizing all your resources, you could also lose members to other, and speaking in church, to other church who are actually thinking ahead and finding ways to allow people that want to go church publicly and in person, but also they want to worship in their homes and the safety in their homes. So you got to respect that as well.
Absolutely. So what has been some of your opportunities while you've been leading that you maybe didn't realize about yourself, and you're like, I learned that during this pandemic time?
There's so many things that there's only so many hours in a day. And you have, you coming in and came in from, great administration before as first vice under Brother Armstrong. And you see some things, I want to go ahead and, I see these things that as the leader now, I can say this is what I want to do. And you got to understand that every decision, not every decision brother's going to like. Sometimes every decision brother's not going to like. But you have to keep smiling. You got to make sure you stay professional and keep the personal out of it. And that's what I would say most importantly is making sure you check your feelings and make sure the directions and the decisions you make are not personal. They are, as my job as regional director, is protect the Western region and also Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated to ensure that we're not going to be a embarrassment or ridicule or whatever. We're going to be safe during this COVID. We're going to work together and it doesn't happen all the time. And when you're on this side of the curtain, I remember Honorable Brother Sneed used to say that, the peek under the curtain, and now I'm the, the conductor now behind the scenes. Right. It's important to know that you have to rely on your brothers to support you, to be there for you, to help shield you, to sometimes whatnot, and understand at the end of the day, no matter all these positions, and whether it be tomorrow, it'd be another year or 2 more years after that. At the end of the day, I'm still gonna be Brother Nalls, and I'm gonna be the same guy before. I'm gonna be a lot more relaxed. I guarantee you that. And, some of the gray hair, it probably is going to stay with me. So I'm definitely excited to meet those challenges, because when you had those opportunities, I think I mentioned it before, there's growth. It sounds easy for everybody to say yeah, and just go along with it. But I like a little pushback, because there's time for understanding and growth there. And then now all of a sudden now they understand why you're saying these things. So then all of a sudden now the light may come on, like, okay, I get it now. I didn't understand it before, but having a conversation, and it's important to have those conversations, because people in general will, if you don't have those conversations and follow up, it could be detrimental. And relationships, or whatever the case may be, you want to make sure they stay strong. Be mindful that it's not always going to be right there, but dealing with people. One of the phrases I always say, "A brotherhood, scholarship, and service. Those principles are perfect. People are not." And trust me, I make mistakes, and I'm probably going to make mistakes in the future, but I have to recognize that as a leader. So,
huge facts. I mean, you sound like a baby Barack, Brother Nalls. What's going on here? I'm like, every time we talk, I'm like, yes, we can. Okay. I'm like, oh, okay. You got my vote, and I'm not even the frat. But so with principles, because yes, the principles are perfect. I was just sharing with someone else where I was presenting servant leadership to my job, to the classified professionals, and I was making the statement how organizations exist to serve, but leaders live to serve. And if you don't have that desire to really serve others and have that mindset of putting self aside for the greater good, and remembering the principles of the matter, then what are you really doing it for? And like you said, when it's all said and done, you still got to be, I've seen all kind of nicknames for you tonight. You still got to be kid, you still got to be dad, you still got to be son, you still got to be brother. You have whatever other titles you might have, you still have to be that man. And I think that's something that I've learned during this pandemic, because I didn't know that I was wrestling with socialization until I realized I hadn't been out the house in like months.
Wow.
Like outside of going to church, I wasn't like going to Instacart. Who needs to go to the store? DoorDash. Who needs to go get food?
Right.
And so when I started like really driving, I was like, whoa, where are all these people? But I think that is something that we do need to like really assess for ourselves, and understand like we're going to take some time adjusting to life again, because we've been closeted in, but also being well enough to admit, hey, I'm not well and I need help. And I like the fact that you as a leader, you shout out your team. That it's not, when I said brag on yourself, you're like, well, I got to brag on the team. I said, okay.
Right.
So, true leaders know that it's not of self, it's of others that are helping push the vision. So I'm proud of you, Brother Nalls. Proud.
And Camille, I appreciate you and just giving this opportunity, and doing this and showing your growth. And I imagine with every podcast you do, you're getting better, and you're saying things, hey, I'm gonna do this a little bit different, and exercising your craft. So definitely kudos to you as well.
Well, I try to tell people, I'm like, I got some more things that I got cooking. I definitely have to find, a better backdrop. I want to, do some different things here. Like want to have like a perfect internet connection, because Spectrum is trash. But in reality, but there's nothing I can do. I was like, how do I build an infrastructure? But I love the fact that I understand my lane, but when I can reach someone on this vehicle and my guests are willingly to come and share and talk for themselves, that makes my heart well. This Be Healed is really for you to share your story. I could ask you 1,000 questions about you working in corrections, because I do believe that that is a group that people write off as refuse. I do believe that we do have a problem with charging folks of their past sins versus seeing them for the human being that they are. Um, so I can, like, literally, if you want to just spend a few more moments encouraging, because I do know that there's people who watch tonight, who watch the show, and some of their loved ones are institutionalized and they weren't able to communicate when the pandemic first hit. Letters got slow, phone calls became few.
Right.
And they've been worried about their son, their daughter, their nephew, their niece, their grandson, their granddaughter, etc. What are some things that you can share from being inside your location that you have maybe instituted to your subordinates to make sure that they're doing to ensure the wellness of those men?
Well, especially dealing with mental health, and obviously there's two components. You're dealing with people who's been locked up 5, 10, life, and sometimes up to life without the possibility of parole. Some people have a lot of good, strong connection and support group out there, and some people don't have anybody. And so it's that mixture, regardless of COVID or not. You have that mixture, and then you put them all together. Just like that, if you're being a kid and you see the mom and dad bring, McDonald's for lunch, and, they have that ability to do that where, your mom and dad, never going to come to school because they working 2 jobs or whatever the case may be. And, that type of mindset, that's the stressors there. Phone calls, right. The phone calls were slow. Mail is still slow of coming in. We got staff that are not be able to come to work because of COVID, and they make the staffing worse. So then the mandates that come up. And then like today, for instance, today for like last, month or two, I'm dealing with packages and property, and it's coming slow because the staff are not there to process it. So trying to ease the patients, we call them patients, if we're in a hospital setting. So if you hear me say inmates or patients, it's patients. Trying to reassure them that, hey, I recognize, I see your stuff there. It just hasn't been processed. And it can be very taxing, and trying to be reassuring where I don't have control of that. That's up to the correctional officers to make that happen. But it's my job. If they, show behaviors, I got to deal with the behaviors on the unit. So telling the staff, hey, relax. You might see, some behaviors, they may get a little upset. It might be a name or two, but as long as we stay professional, we're the ones that get paid to be professional. They don't. But we are human, and we do make, we have behaviors as well. But as long as we keep them to a minimal and have that understanding that, hey, at the end of the day, they live here, we get to leave 16 hours. They don't. And as long as you have that mindset, at the end of the day, I used to tell those people all the time, you have to make sure you understand where you're working at. You're working at a facility, you're working at a place where, lives have been broken, people have been hurt on both sides. But at the end of the day, you can always go out and go get you a cheeseburger. Everything with food is always going to come back to food. That's one of the privileges I work in there, is I understand that at the end of the day, I can leave anytime I want to and go anywhere I want to, and no one can tell me that. Where they are, they've been told when to use the bathroom, where to use the bathroom, what time to eat, where to eat, what type of clothing you're going to wear. It sounds, some people who don't want to have any, doesn't want to have any complications, don't want to have any issues. Literally, prisons sound pretty cool sometimes, but once you get there, no, it's a whole nother world, and a lot of people are not ready and never be ready. So it's important to know that at the end of the day, you have to remain professional, no matter how bad you want to yell, cuss, whatever the case you want to do, you have to remain professional. So that's what I tell my staff all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. When you mentioned about prison, sound a little cool for some people, but when you get in there, it's not. My dad, he's involved in Bill Glass prison ministry, and we went up to NorCal. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do the prison ministry. I got cleared, and it was a women's jail, I think we were in the Fresno area, and I hated it. I hated it. I said, this isn't. I can't do it. You're not supposed to ask the participants that are or the inmates that are there what they did, but somehow, it's kind of hard because it's conversation. Well, how did you get here?
Right.
You're trying to make conversation, and the young lady began to tell my peer and I what she did, and she was like, "You just got to walk into the store and say everything in here belongs to you and just take it." I was like, I never thought about it like I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to be listening intently like this. Like, I don't think this is what. And then when they try to feed me, I was like, where's the condiments? I just knew, and my mother and different ones were laughing at me. They were like, Camille, like, what's wrong? But I did really, really well at the reentry celebration that they did. That's where I knew my calling. So
Okay.
I kudos to you because you're in the facility.
Mm-hmm. If you call me, you can hear them talking. That's how close I am. So it's not like I'm in some office or whatnot. I'm right next door to them. So
yeah. So I just kudos to you. You are doing a great work. I'm about to sound real churchy with this one, but I'm like, anytime, like Nehemiah was building that wall, he was doing a great work and couldn't come down. Continue to do the great work that you are doing, Brother Kedric. We are here. We are supporting. We are rooting for you, not just the Blue and White fam, but each and every one on this line, your family, your friends, loved ones. And I'm sure you gained a few more fans on tonight just because hearing your heart, some might have seen your okay, all right. They might have seen the marketing and was like, oh, okay. But I'm grateful to hear what you're doing. And I do want to say this as we're preparing to close. If there's any tools or resources that you can share that I can put in the chat or even put across the screen, can you share that with us so they might be able, men and women that are watching on tonight might be able to have, maybe if it's a line, a hotline, or if it's any type of resource for mental health that they can reach out, or do you offer your services outside of the facility to help console?
To answer your question, no. Other than just having those conversations, just me being a brother, would be, a member, Phi Beta Sigma member of Zeta Phi Beta, especially here in Northern California, they know they can call upon me, and I have people I can call upon. And that's important to know, that those people may not always be the same people that call on you, that you call on them. And sometimes it may be embarrassing. At the end of the day, if you need help, whether it be me or anyone who you feel comfortable to, and sometimes you just got to vent and just get it off your chest. And it could be the same thing you said to someone 2 days ago, and now you're still going through it. Be a blessing and be able to give a blessing. Because sometimes that you never know when that day, that time, that event that may trigger you, and you need someone to talk to. Don't ever feel that, and I even myself even struggle with that sometimes. Like, man, they hear my story all the time, man. I don't want to do that, and I get cussed out just like I like to cuss people out. Listen, call me, and you have to, again. We could be professional, and you can wear the tie. But at the end of the day, listen, call someone when you're feeling down. I tell people all the time, I'm available 24/7. You just got to wake me up. If you wake me up, good. If you didn't, I'm sorry. But my phone is available all the time. And I've had those 3 o'clock phone calls. And I've some people have been the recipient of some, 3 o'clock phone calls as well on my end. So it's important to know where your strengths are and know your weaknesses. And, it's easy to talk about your strengths, but if you're not building up your weaknesses, then there'll always be weaknesses. So you have to make sure you understand, hey, you talk about the resource. The first thing, and there's nothing wrong with it, but when I was thinking, you said resource of the Bible.
Come on, brother.
That's important. And I say it from my perspective. I'm not a Bible thumper. Not y'all can't quote anything. That's not me. But I know Lord Jesus Christ is my Savior, and I was just saved in November of 2019. but
Amen.
definitely came in a church family, and mom and dad was saved. So I always knew and just started walking that journey. And just like everybody's journey is your journey, and mine is crooked, just like yours is crooked. Some people just less crooked. But trust me, it's a long ways to get to where you go and to walk in the footsteps. It's difficult, and it's very difficult, and it's supposed to be difficult because the one true person that was perfect. So if it was easy, everybody be perfect. But we all walk our journey, and one thing I learned is that no matter how the journey is there, as long as you're heading that towards that direction, even you have to take a step back,
Yeah.
even to go backwards, even you have to take a break. You got to get up, put that shoulder backpack on, and keep going forward because you'll be a blessing to someone who you don't know who's watching. And I got two awesome kids, Marcus and Savannah, and definitely got to give kudos to them. I got to beat them up later because they're making all that noise, and I told them to be quiet, but I still love them. But they have been my rock through all I've been through, good, bad, and different. I knew I always wanted to have kids, and having a son and having a daughter, two different distinct mindsets. Being in prison, one thing is you cherish your kids a little bit more. I look at working in prison as a what's the word I want to use, as a positive. It's hard work. It's very draining work, but you appreciate the things that you have. Where you have them. I've seen grown men cry because they never touched their kids before. And a lot of times I will speak on it. I take advantage of, not advantage even more so than spending time with them. They're getting older. They want to spend time with daddy as much. And, sometimes they hit me a little bit, but, at the end of the day, I know they got to grow up. And watching them grow and be productive young men, both, my son's a Sigma Beta. My daughter is in the Zeta Youth Auxiliary. So it's important being what I am and how I'm doing Sigma. It's important to understand to make sure the kids are involved as well. Got a good support group. Give out a shout out to their mom, Tammy. Listen, Tammy knows that I wouldn't be a Sigma today, and I wouldn't be where I am today. She's the one that really kind of pushed me on getting here. And hey, what are you doing with all that? You did all that, and what you doing with it? You know how y'all women do. Y'all like to keep hitting that head, keeping that sensitive spot. So they
pushers. We're purpose pushers.
That's okay, well, that sounds like a good phrase. Yeah, as long as you got pushers in there, that's fine. We're a dynamic team. Mom and dad, and raising these two kids, and I love them to death, and I can't praise them up. I can praise them more, but I think we got a few more minutes, and that'd be a whole nother podcast to just talk about them. So I love them very much. So
well, you can always come back because I do. Towards the end of the year, I do a section about the power of vulnerability. And I talk with specifically just men. And we talk about vulnerability and what does that look like? What has that been a part of in your life? And so you are more than welcome to come back and share your journey in vulnerability, because I do believe that it's a very every evolving type topic. That you're just not vulnerable. Oh, I'm vulnerable now, I'll always be vulnerable. No, that's not how life is. So last season we talked about for 8 weeks with 8 different gentlemen. So I would love for you to be one of the 8 for sure.
Always a pleasure. Like I said, I'm gonna be supporting with you until you get too big, and then I gotta yell at you, and then I might get a shout out back. But I'm gonna get you while I have you down.
I tell people I don't care what happens in my life, however God magnifies my life, I still know who I am. I am still Reggie and Sandy's baby. So look, okay. I am still Angie's little sissy. So ain't nothing gonna change. So, but I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Brother Nalls, for stopping by. Thank you for all those who have tuned in. Brother Nalls, if you have a few moments, I'm gonna connect with you in just a few. But I'm going to dismiss everyone else. Look, everybody, hopefully you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. Brother Nalls share from the oaths of his heart regarding not only how he's been able to lead in the pandemic, but take each opportunity that he has to seize the moment, whether it's loving on the children or valuing each moment, but also taking care of his own health, mental health, and helping others get to that place. And let us never forget those that are in the margins of life, those that are incarcerated, those that might be homeless on the street, those that are wrestling stuff in their minds. He already shared with you some great resources which is the Word of God, and that is something that I will always promote because the Word of God is alive. It meets us just where we are. And so if you don't know that on tonight, if you haven't really made, your decision yet, open it up. Even if it's on your YouVersion Bible app, or if you're on the website, check out a couple of passages, understand what John 3:16 means and Psalms 34. Just get in there. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Brother Nalls. We're here for you because we want to see you grow and be the best that God wants you to be. So on that note, have a good night. We love you. We thank you for tuning in. Ladies, as usual, Be Healed Women's Virtual Conference is happening August 19th through the 21st. And it's going to be amazing. So make sure that you visit www.behealedconference.com. $40 registration. And trust me, you do not want to miss. So book your spot now. And we'll see you next week. Same Be Healed time, same Be Healed channel, 7 p.m. here on Facebook and YouTube. Talk to you soon. Have a good night.